Well, welcome, Dr. Cherry. Dr. Cherry CFP. Man, I need to get some more letters in front of my name. That'd be great.
Man, oh man, shoot, man. Letters are they're all good, man. Experience goes a long way. Shoot, you've been in the game a long time.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, welcome to the Black CFP series. This one's an important one, I think, not only for our industry but for us too. I know we're both part of a lot of groups, and the more Black people can get involved, and all minorities, but more Black people get involved and really help, not only for our own community, but for others to hear a different voice and a different spin on it, because our experiences are vastly different. I know we've known each other for a little bit now, and you're launching a pod and YouTube, and we're doing all those things. But why don't you back that up and tell us who you are and how you got to where you're at?
Yeah, I got started. Wow, it's going on, I don't know, 16 years now. I started in 06, something like that, 05, 06. I got my master's in 06 in financial planning a while back. And a year before that, I got my Series 7. So that, the licensing thing. I was at a bank story. So I really started, I really started it as a teller back in the day.
Right.
And as life would tell it, I like puns. As life would tell it, I still carry a lot of stuff from the teller line, about money, right? I do. Because when people back in the day, my second job, my first job was at pharmacy. Pharmacies, you just do it on the floor, stacking the,
Right.
the stuff on the floor and all that type of stuff. But my other job was at a teller line, and I did that for a lot of years. So I worked on the retail floor, personal banker, all that, right? And I did that for a number of years while I was going through undergrad. And the reason why I tell that story is that we always ask about people's money stories, right, and how we connect with people and all that. And back when people were actually inside of banks, people were telling their money stories every day, 2, 3, 400 transactions a day story. People were having and all across socioeconomic status, people were telling you what they were doing with their money day in and day out, right? So, that's where I started, and then it navigated toward, what I want to do next. And I ended up in an investment operations department, then, started getting in investments, then got the master's in financial planning, took off from there, and did all type of stuff in the financial planning world, junior financial planner, all this other stuff, right? Associate financial planner, all these type of things, right? Managed money. I was an investment money manager, co-managed a family office for $120 million. So I did all these things, retirement planning, all of these. So the perspectives has allowed me to not only do my thing, story, like as far as just have my own firm and do a number of things, but also mentor not only young folks coming into the profession, but also professionals that are active in their journeys as well, and also help my clients in their journeys. So yeah,
I love it. Enjoying it. Gotta be
yeah,
enjoying it, right?
yeah. That's why I share it all the time. He's like, well, live aspirationally is one of my go-to lines. What do you aspire to do? What do you aspire to do? Think boldly about your life, right? One of my other taglines is life, money, balance. Let your life lead your money, not your money lead your life. Let's establish what you want to do with your life first, and then your money will follow, and it will start being a tool to help support what your life aspiration is. And that came from a period, and people had these stories all the time. Everybody has a story.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about? Everybody has a story. Everybody has a story. They want to be heard. But I mean, I'm about to. I rarely say it, but I'm gonna bring it out. Point blank. Period. But everybody has a story, and if you can tap in to that story, then you can tap into your money, right? If you can tap into your story, you can tap into your money. And as far as let your life lead your money, not your money lead your life. Well, if they're going two separate ways, that doesn't really feel good. And you can feel it when they're going two separate ways, no question. And that's where concurrent came from, where, the name of the practice is that if your money or not, your life and money are not aiming at a similar point, right? If they're not working together, then, a point of tangency, then it really doesn't feel good because they're going like this, right? So at a point in my life, I felt that my life had no direction. I had a lot of fundamentals inside of me because I was blessed with good parents, and I had a fundamental nature of self-worth and self-value. I say all the time, those two inputs in life, that those are the greatest gifts you can give a young person: self-worth, self-value, and some love. Those two assets are compoundable more than any financial asset. All right. Because you can stack on top of that. All right. So I always had that to come back to. And I'm grateful for those. Okay. So when I had my fog years, so to speak, and I was able to say, okay, what can I do to turn this around? I was like, okay, let me reach out for some help. Right. And then I was like, oh, okay, let me get some stuff together. And then I said, let me live boldly, let me live aspirationally and see what's next. And then that's when the life started leading the money, and not my money trying to fill a gap of lack of fulfillment and direction. You see, that's what I'm talking about.
I love that. We call it money mindset, right? That's what we harp on a lot, and it's very much the same. If you don't have the right mindset in relationship with your money, it's just going to bring you down. It's going to cause issues that everyone's going through. Once you have that squared away, which you got to, and I've gotten to, once you get to that point, then you're living life, and then the money's coming like you're talking about. And now you're focused on going forward as opposed to always feeling like you're getting pulled some way, one way or another. So I love that. I love that. In terms of clientele, what do you look for? What's I don't want to say ideal clientele because that's our industry talk, but who do you love to work with, and who do you want to work for?
Yeah, that's real talk right there. I want to work with folks who want to work with themselves, right? The willingness to work on their journey. They want to engage. They're ready. They're ready. It's like, okay, I call it the moment. It's like, okay, have you come to a point to where you realize that you want to do something different? You at least you're ready. At least you're ready. Okay. You don't necessarily have to have an abundance of assets. Okay. But you have to have an abundance of willingness. And you definitely, you have to have some income though, some an abundance of, not an abundance of it, but a good chunk of income, because there's ways to where if you're not ready income wise, to where there's resources for that. There's community resources, there's pro bono resources. There's a lot of resources to where you can get services for that. Now, for different firms, whether independent firms, okay, there's resources for that. So I serve, and so do many firms. They serve a particular set of households. All right, but as far as just willingness to come to the table and having an ah moment, which is I'm ready to do something. My household is ready to do something different. All right, I'm ready to aspire. I'm ready to think boldly about, without apology, about what I want to do next with my money and my life. All right, and do what it takes to do to go to that next stage. All right, that's who I like working with, because they want to work with themselves, right? That's what I'm talking about. It is about the psychology of it. It's about the mindset. It is about the willingness to start and to engage and stay engaged, right? And live abundantly, live aspirationally. That's the most, and to want to transform, right, into the person or the household that they want to become. That's who I enjoy working with.
And 100%. That's the people we all want to work with. And I think the best thing you said there is you do not have to have an abundance of assets, right? Every listener, listen, you don't have to have a bunch of assets. That's not what we're talking about. You have to have the willingness and the correct income. Now, I'm not saying that you could have more expenses income. We'll work on that. But if you have the correct income, then go work with Dr. Cherry.
Right.
Go to Concurrent. You know what I mean? Like, if you have that ability, do that. But there is so many resources between what you're publishing, what we're putting content out, most of the RAs I know, there is free and clear content that you, if you are not ready for that, can go learn, get your feet wet, figure some things out. Hell, do it yourself if you really want to. And then when you're ready, we'll take a look at it. We'll help you. But I think the most clear thing I wanted everyone to know there is you have to have a willingness, and it's not about how much assets you have. Please do not get caught up on, I don't have enough money to talk to you, because that's only hurting yourself. If you're willing, we'll work with you. If you feel as if you just don't have enough assets, but you still are willing, let's go. Let's ride, right?
That's right. That's right. No doubt. 'Cause income builds assets. Absolutely. Income funds assets. All right. And I know, people are like, okay, let's get these assets. There's a lot of shaming out in the world. All right. And a lot of out in the space, wherever platform that you tune into and all that. And there's a lot I got some content coming out on that. I'm not loving your platform store. You out there, pushing the content. And I'm glad we're on. I'm glad that people need to connect and just share. The more content is out there that's combating, not necessarily combating. Just offsetting a lot of the noise that's out there. And I tweeted the other day, it's like, content without context and caveats, that is doing a disservice to the public, and I'm glad that, everyone that has their platforms that are actually trying to do justice and service for individuals is great. And then when we get to combine like we're doing today and helping folks, that's great as well. So, the script that's out there that says, okay, assets all the time. There's a process to get the assets. There's a process, and there's no shame in taking the time into having income first, doing what you have to do in order to, be in the process to gain the assets. If you don't have a level of assets right now, you'll get there. It takes a little time.
Yeah,
and we're all trying to get there, and do it at your pace. That's it.
We're all on this financial journey, all of us.
Yes.
Some of us got a jump start, and we had legacy plans from our parents, all of those things. Those people are really lucky to all of a sudden have assets at a certain age. Probably 99% of us, not that way. We didn't have that. So what you're saying, and everyone needs to realize, is it's a journey. Wherever you're at on that journey, you're supposed to be there. Now let's just get ahead. Let's get to where you want to go. And guess what? That doesn't mean you start with $1 million in assets, $10,000 of assets, zero, negative if you have student loans, right? Like, it is. I got student loans. I got student loans, right? I'm still paying on them. They're still there. So like, we are all in it. It's a journey, and you need to realize it's a lifelong journey. There is no, getting rich quick. Some people have it, some people don't. It's a journey, and I love that part. But I want to hit upon, because it's one of my questions that you had talked about, of us coming together doing this and others putting out content on there. Why is it in our industry we don't partner more often, in your eyes? Why do people, and I'm specifically speaking about RAs, because that's all I care about. I don't care about all the others, wirehouses and all that. Don't need to get into that. But why do RAs not partner together? Because I'm going to let you answer it before I get into my spiel, but why is it in your eyes that firms like us, we do not partner together across the world, across the country?
Yeah. I good question. Let's see. Well, I think that, we've had our experiences in the big firms, and potentially we've had lack of identity in those firms. And it's been enjoyable that we've had identity with with our own individuality a little bit, and it feels good to spread wings and have a little control over our own destiny and also our own messages. And I think it's just across the board with any uh, you individual firm to have control over your messaging and the like. So I think that's a part of it. I think that's a part of it. That said, there's something to be said about joining and aligning and say, okay, after you had that moment of that individuality, it's kind of like, I know some people don't like sports references, but I say sports references all the time because listen, everybody knows wherever your background is, either sports, music, or something. You have to pick a point of reference where everybody knows, right? Yeah. Everybody knows, housing. All right, everybody knows that, hey, you can go to housing because everybody knows it's either an apartment or a house, or sports or whatever. So you pick a point of reference. So anyway, it's like coming out and it's like, okay, well, I'm going to score a whole bunch of points, okay, and then later on in your career is like, maybe I could dial back on the individual awards and maybe I could try to get a better team around me and win a championship. Okay, it's just a natural progression of things. And I think that once we get that initial, good feed or good shock of, okay, I got my individual message out and this, that, and the other. Okay, how about we team up? All right. So maybe it's about time. It's the natural progression of thing is, okay, how do we win the championship, not only for our greater good internally, but externally? Serving others. All right. Because it's not an or, it's an and. Right. So I think it's the next stage is because I think that at greater scale, it's the messaging actually and the philosophies can have larger reach to the public if a lot of us are coming together at greater scale.
Absolutely. And what you're talking about in that, it's the industry has to be ready to do that. Our independent firms and niche firms are relatively young in the whole process of how businesses operate, right? And so I think you're right about that. Is we're all wanting the control and our individuality and focus on us, get our businesses going, and then you get to a point where you're like, man, that's for me. It's more like that's selfish, right? I'm not calling people selfish. I'm saying for me, that doesn't fulfill what our actual service and purpose is, because I know I can't handle 1,000 clients. It's just not. It's just not possible. That's 1,000 clients, 1,000 people is very, very small in this world, let alone the country that we live in. And so why are we not using and relying on each other for our expertise and all of those things? So I loved your answer. I'm pushing that really, really hard, being loud with, hey, let's work on partnering. There's a lot of experts at what we're doing. Let's rely on that. Who cares how the comp gets done and all that? We know whose client it is. That's what's most important. We're just helping them achieve what they need to go, right? The comp will take care of it. Compliance, we'll let the teams figure that out. But for us, it's, hey, I'm really good at this and I can help. Let me help you and help that client reach that, as opposed to, I know before I didn't have all the experiences, I'm trying to figure it out and learn it all myself so I can take care of that client. As opposed to, I'm probably hurting the client because they can go now, they can deploy now, they can do whatever it is now if I had that partner or that network to do so. And I'm glad we're all doing content like this. It's just going to help us connect those bridges a lot more.
Yeah, I feel you. I can't wait to extend that conversation. I've had conversations like that over the last few years, actually the last 4 years, actually, behind closed doors. Yeah. We've been touching on it with a few people, here and there. It's we should push that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what I tweeted out. I was in Estes Park. The boys were grabbing some firewood, and that's what I tweeted out and said, we need to have a cocktail hour. Just everybody, get us all together and hang out. And really learn and build that team and really see where we go with it, right? I posed this question, I think it was a couple weeks ago, because we're redoing our services doing some DIY stuff, but also mainly the family office that we have. And my question was, do you like doing things by yourself or do you like a team? Right? 67% on the Twitter poll said that they rather do things themselves. And I'm about to release a video response to that of, there's not one damn thing you do in your life that does not involve a team. Think about it.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Now, subconsciously, is that team just because you follow people on Twitter, you listen to a podcast, YouTube, if you read a book, you watch a TV show, guess what? They're technically part of your team. They just might not be the professional that you're paying for, right? In this life, you cannot go just doing it yourself. There is no doing it yourself. You are getting information, education somewhere. And that's what we're trying to say is we're the professionals. Help us help you. That's why a lot of us are pushing out the free content. But it was really interesting how people believe that they're doing things themselves when realistically they got a team somewhere. There's a team, mom, dad, somebody's helping you.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Right. And I think the question is diving a little deeper, which is, yes, we have a team around us. Yes, you have to outsource. Yes, you have to do all these things, right? Who is leading the organization, right? It's a little bit of ego, a little bit. You have to have you have to have an ego to do a lot of things. There's no question about that. Right. It's about a healthy ego, and Dr. MLK has talked. He has a speech about this actually. So what you do with that, right? And an ego is quite natural. It's how you use it in order to facilitate what you're doing in life, and it's hard to balance sometimes. It really is, and that's why you have to do certain things in order to keep it in check. So I don't think people are denying that they need resources, a team of resources around you. However, this is where when you get a team, when you do collaborate, it's like, okay, when you have all these alphas, so to speak, in the room, it's like who is leading that, whose philosophy is taking point, how do you condense all that? How do you integrate all of those? I'm not saying that would be tough. It was just, how do you align all that so everyone is on Front Street, so to speak, and for the greater good. I think that. But see that all that is you have to encourage people to say that what would it feel like? It's just reframing the question. What would it feel like to be at a corporation or a business that has a great culture, right? We left certain cultures and business structures and management hierarchies and this, that, and the other. Okay. How would it feel if that actually existed? Right. Would you be a part of that? Right. That's a different question.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yep.
That is a different question, right? To where you're seeing a team of leaders and voices. Okay. And that culture is different. All right. Now it's a different question. All right. And if we pose it that way, and people say, okay, now I want to be a part of that. Okay. And then the egos are that barrier is lifted a little bit, and now it's reshifted in the mindset.
There you go. There you go.
Is shifted a little bit and is more welcoming in. Right.
Absolutely. Next question that gets a little deeper.
Yeah.
We're both Black CFPs. That's what we do. How many Black clientele do you have, percentage wise?
Yeah. So this is a fine line for me. Yep. So yeah. So I tend not to lead with prerequisites. I'm a CFP. I reverse that. I'm a CFP that happens to be Black. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, I do have Black clients. I am first of all, I'm a humanist first. Mm-hmm. I'm a human being first. I think culture is very important because I don't think as humanists, we should not have to be homogenous. We don't have to be homogenous within the cultures either.
Right.
All right. We don't have to be homogenous within genders, or so to speak, and within these boxes, so to speak. All right. But I'm a financial money is universal. All right. It's a universal language like math, like music. All right. And how it works intertwines through life, like love. All right. All right. That is universal. All right. And it happens across the life cycle and across households and relationships and people. It is about existence and how it flows through us as human beings and through cross time is universal. So far as planning is concerned, and planning for money, that is universal. So I happen to be a CFP that happens to be Black, and I happen to have a lot of cultural experiences that allow me to empathize across many emotions. All right, I can empathize with different demographics. I don't even want to call them out because of the experiences I have in life. Mm-hmm. You know, I've been through trauma. I've my mother is the greatest vulnerable person that I've ever met. All right. Personalities, my dad, I've even published personality research papers. So, that, the Black experience, so to speak, I've seen that. I've seen suburban experiences. I grew up there. All right. So I've had these conversations before with folks, and some folks are saying, well, you're not this or you're not that, and you're not to this and you're not to that. I've experienced that my whole life.
Same,
I said,
brother.
I was like, bro, and particularly, either and on either side of the aisle, I was like, bro, you don't want me to have to play this card or that card, right? Because we can, sitting around on a spade table, that'll come out quick. Let me holler at you. You know what I'm saying? Right. I got songs today. I got Maxwell. Hey, listen, let me cause songs like kid, like, let me holler at you, right? So I'm a CFP that happens to be, right? I'm a CFP that happens to be Black. Absolutely. So I naturally capture the culture. Mm-hmm. All right, just naturally. But I also capture, everyone else. And this is why I make it a point to, when you see my Life Money Balance banner on my website. All right. It is a quilt of people, because I'm a person of a higher power, whatever faith you follow. Right. But I'm a person of the earth. I'm a person of the earth that wants to be about the human condition. So when somebody sits in front of me about their money, I'm learning about their value, which is financial planning. I'm learning about their attitudes, their culture, because I want to. So when we're talking about, when the question is, I know that was a little lengthy about the answer, but it's important. I am a CFP that happens to be Black and enjoy when somebody's Black in front of me. Yes. But I also enjoy any culture or person that sits in front of me that wants to express their value and background and foreground in front of me and share that with me so I can help them on their journey.
There you go. That was deep. I want everyone to realize that that's pretty deep, because that's real right there. That's real. I know there's a lot of things about how the Black communities, minority communities actually, they aren't as financial literate. They're not able to have the resources that suburbia does. And I pose that question really to combat that idea, the ideology of, just because you're poor and you're in a certain community, you don't have access to us, right? Or to experts in any field. And the way you pose that is, again, it comes back to what you said. If you have a willingness to work for yourself and get yourself better, I'm here for you, right? Mm-hmm. And that's all it is. Don't matter if you're Black, brown, right? It don't matter what you are. But what we need to do is, I believe what we're doing here, what you're releasing, is we're being louder. We need to be louder than that noise. A lot of that noise is just bad advice and stuff anyway, but we need to be louder to allow other people to see real CFPs for who they are, and we can actually really do good. I think a lot of our industry is just a lot of noise, a lot of publicized noise from giant firms who can spend millions and millions of dollars on, noise because they can.
Right. And not all of certain demographics come from, trauma or lack of access as well. I want to get that story debunked as well. Lack of access is a very, very real thing, and particularly in non-majority communities. That's a fact. So having to overcome lack of access and institutionalism and a whole bunch of other things is a fact. Okay. However, the propaganda that, illiteracy, financial illiteracy, so to speak, and lack of access is upon all non-majority individuals. And that's where every one of those individuals start. That is a myth. And the fact that more advanced or more financially accessed groups, all right, that they don't need financial wellness introductions, and also that they're more financially savvy, that's also a myth. All right. All right. Because I've done financial plans for high net worth individuals, and I can tell you, all right, asset heavy, I can tell you that they need financial conversations, financial wellness, this, that, and the other. All right. So when we're talking to our communities, we don't need to talk at people. We need to learn where they are and talk with, and don't assume that we're talking to a group that, it doesn't know, all the time. And you see that in a lot of some of the platforms that talk directly to, if we're going to talk about our people, so to speak. All right. That, you don't know this, you don't know this. Don't assume that, because I can write you 100 people down list right now that comes from well-to-do. When I say well-to-do households, I'm talking about married for 15 or 20 years, this, that, and the other, blah, 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 that don't come from trauma or this, that, and the other. All right. Or, of what the society projects of non-majority households. So we just don't need to assume everything all the time. All right. And there's nothing wrong with coming, as I want to say this quite clearly too, there's nothing wrong with coming from a lack thereof. Also, we need to empathize and come with a open heart and hear where people are coming from, so we can help along folks on their journey, as well as to try to close that gap along with that too. Either or, we just don't need to assume.
Absolutely. I posed this one the other day on Twitter. I was copying or tweeted about somebody had mentioned about the accredited investor rule, and how it's a wash rule. I don't believe in it really at all, for what the factors are, right? You have to have 250, 300,000 of income, 1.1 million in assets, not including your primary residence, for those that don't know what an accredited investor is. What an accredited investor allows you to do is to go into private equity deals, certain funds, certain private off-public forums that really create wealth, that a lot of wealthy people actually get into. And most people build their wealth outside of the stock market, right? I find it funny that we make it hard for people to access that, but make it a lot easier to get in the stock market. So what is your opinion on the accredited investor rule, and what would you like to see going forward or change or whatever in regards to people having access to get into certain investments, regardless of where they're at in life?
Yeah, I think that some consumer protection rules have good intent. I think they have good intent, and what the consumer protection rule is saying is, or at least trying to say is that before you get into an illiquid investment, okay, let's try and have the liquid investments, your order of operations, taken care of before you get into something that may tie up your funds in a way that may be, not in your best interest. Okay. So that's what the rule is trying to do. It's trying to, and most rules and protections are attempting to are trying to be best interest rules. Like, for instance, IRAs. People are saying, okay, don't put your money in IRAs or retirement accounts because you can't get your money until 59 and a half. Well, they are retirement accounts. Right. And it's not a or thing, or just like what, it's not an only thing. It's right. You can have both, have a taxable account and also a brokerage account, a little bit more freedom and flexibility, and also have a retirement account. You're not supposed to be in those things anyway, right. So for the most part, for the most part, if you have to tap them in the emergency, okay, cool, get that. That's a whole nother discussion. But the point is, back to the question about the accreditation rule, it's a protection rule. Do I want to see things change with the accreditation rule? I don't know, Stoy. I don't think that it's a too much of a barrier. It hasn't been too much of a barrier in my experience, because for those that it applies to and want to, that says, okay, well, dang, if I didn't have that rule, then I could, then I can get into this, right? Let's just have those cases. In those cases, more than likely, we probably need to address something else. If you're on the cusp, we probably need to address something else, right? Let's look at some other areas to where we can fund first before we get into investing into something that's going to, I don't know, be something that's made not necessarily not in your best interest, but not for the right now. Right. So let's get your assets up in order to invest in those areas. So, and then there's also other areas. There's other ways in order to get into those areas. As far as, like, let's take, for instance, real estate. Mm-hmm. Okay. I know that's your game, right? That's your thing. Right. So if you want to get into real estate, you can get into real estate in different areas, different ways. I mean, get it through your IRAs. You can get them through, certain ways where you don't have to necessarily be accredited, So, I mean, so there's just different ways to access that around that rule.
There is. And I think that's why I don't like the rule so much, is because it makes people go around that rule. Once you go around that rule, you're less protected. And usually there's not an expert doing what is in your best interest. Right. And I believe part of the rule should be, if you have a CFP or somebody in that realm who is a fiduciary and you're educated and you're ready to go, does it really matter? Should it matter that they're not there? Because to me, what that does is it just pushes people to, again, you have to have a certain amount of assets. Has nothing to do with age. I mean, I can give you about 20 people right now that are may or may not be on our investor list, that are accredited investors, that aren't anywhere as educated or ready to be in that investment as someone who doesn't have that, right? So it's not like, an experience thing. It can be, but it doesn't matter. To me, it matters where it's coming from, and is it part of that plan like you read back to. And I believe that should be part of that, right? Because otherwise there's a ton of ways to get around it. Just go get your Series 65. Cool. You're accredited now. You can bypass accreditation right there by just having a 65, right? And I don't feel like we should figure out ways to get around it. We should use it correctly and have the right people on your team. Otherwise, you've got people, we lost a client earlier this year because could not get into commercial real estate through us because of regulations and all that, is now just decided to stop playing with us so they didn't have to worry about that and just go out and start doing properties and stuff on their own without any guidance. Yes, they're intelligent enough to figure all that things out by themselves, but to me, that worries me, because who's really watching their back, right? Yeah. That's our job. That's our job to help them. And I can't help them because our regulations have caused them to leave it, right? So I wanted to hit upon that. That one popped up. I like some hot takes every now and again.
Yeah.
So I had to hit that one up.
Yeah, right. Some regulations are tough sometimes. Yeah.
And that's what, running a business and people need to realize our regulations in our industry are tough. There's a lot of things that we have to do. We have to notate. We have to track, archive, not do, say, not say. That I don't think the public really gets a full understanding of the things that we are allowed to do, not allowed to do, and where it's a gray area that we don't want to take that risk at. And I think that's important. That I'm going to do a lot more being loud about is that, right? There's things we just can't do and say that people on Reddit, other YouTubers that do not have our regulatory body can do and say. And that's why I think it's really nice that the SEC and CFP are allowing us to do testimonials and allowing us to do a lot more content stuff without, handcuffing us, because there's people out there doing it that don't have that licensing and they don't have to worry about the liability piece.
Well, I would say this. Here's what I would say about this. It's about having people's best interest. And this is why having good content, and if you're an RIA, you have a lot more freedom. And particularly Absolutely. if you're not bound, and I have an RIA, and you have a lot more freedom. Okay. You can say a lot. And even it's about having the responsibility, having the internal integrity in order to say the things that are in the best interest, even if you're not tied to a regulatory body or having a CFP or a designation or a state or federal or this. Okay. What is your responsibility is to the people that you serve. All right. So when you say you can deliver, because we're about to do it. I'm doing it right now. I just shot some video this morning. I gave a little jiggy with it dance this morning. I'm about to post on TikTok, this morning. All right. I'm dealing with people's emotions. I'm dealing with people's families. I'm dealing with people's children. I'm dealing with people's elderly parents, this, that, and the other. We're inspiring generation. We're dealing with people's sadness. We're dealing with people's, a transformation of emotion, all of this. Right. So even with having, regulations, so to speak, or boundaries or whatever, but you can do it. All right. So I don't want to hear that. All right. So you can do it if you have the integrity and you can do it within 30 seconds. You can do it in 60 seconds. You can do it within a minute. You can do it without shaming people. You can do it without making people feel bad, and this, that, and the other, and leaving out information, just because you want to capture people's attention for a second. All right. And playing on people's misinformation or stuff like that. All right. And that's what people are doing just in order to capture people's imaginations real quick. So that's a cop out. I don't want to hear that, so even with, the boundaries are there for the protections of the people. And then where's your integrity in order to serve those folks? So that's what I'm talking about. Is if you have the best interest of the people and the care about your serving, yeah, you can do it.
But if you don't, please don't. You just harming people for what? Your own good? Don't be selfish. You know what I mean? Don't be selfish.
And you can still make money.
And you can still make money doing it, right?
You can still make money. You can still make money.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
And matter of fact, people will hand you their money and be like, "Thank you," I know I as a consumer, if I'm receiving good service and good advice from somebody, if I go to a tailor, or if I go to somebody's flying me up in the air or whatever it may be, whatever, if I go to a coach or a counselor or a doctor, whatever, if somebody's coming in to, my drywall or something, I don't care what it is. If somebody's giving me a good service or a product, okay, and they have my best interest, I'm paying them all day.
Yep, absolutely.
I'm saying, hey, thank you. And where do I send it? And when can you come back?
Yep. I hear you. As we wrap this thing up, what do you have coming out? What's new in your world that's coming out that you want to highlight a little bit?
Yeah, I appreciate your story, man. And I appreciate the chop up, man. This has been good stuff, man. Yes. So the Life Money Balance podcast it's going to be picking up. So content's going to be coming out. So you can find that on YouTube. Life Money Balance podcast is on YouTube. You can also find it on any of your platform audio channels, all of your audio. You can find me on all the socials at Dr. Preston Cherry, Dr. Preston Cherry. And that's all the social medias. So that's where you can find me. And also the firm at concurrentfp.com.
Absolutely. And a little off topic, but just email those out. I'll make sure to get them in the description and have the team tagging correctly. But I love this. I can't wait for us to do this again. I can't wait to get your podcast out there and start blasting that. This is fun. And like you said, we could chop this up for hours. We really could.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of topics we can get upon, but I appreciate your time. I appreciate everything that you do for the people. And if there's any way we can support, we're here. I'm here for you.
Hey, back at you, Stoy. Love you, brother.
The preceding program was sponsored by Black Mammoth. Any awards, rankings, or recognition by unaffiliated third parties or publications are in no way indicative of the advisor's future performance or any individual client's investment success. No award, ranking, or recognition should be construed as a current or past endorsement of Black Mammoth. Information regarding specific awards, rankings, or recognitions is available on the Black Mammoth website, www.blackmammoth.com. All investment strategies have the potential for profit or loss. Investment strategies such as asset allocation, diversification, or rebalancing do not assure or guarantee better performance and cannot eliminate the risk of investment losses. There are no guarantees that a portfolio employing these or any other strategy will outperform a portfolio that does not engage in such strategies. This broadcast should not be construed by any client or prospective client as a solicitation to effect or attempt to effect transactions and securities or the rendering of personalized investment advice due to various factors including changing market conditions. The information discussed in this broadcast may no longer be reflective of current positions or recommendations. While information presented is believed to be factual and up-to-date, Black Mammoth do not guarantee its accuracy, and it should not be regarded as a complete analysis of the subjects discussed. The tax and estate planning information discussed is general in nature and is provided for informational purposes only and should not be construed as legal or tax advice. Listeners should consult an attorney or tax professional regarding their specific legal or tax situation. Past performance is not indicative of future results.